Good evening. Welcome to APTN National News. I'm Dennis Ward. Camp Cloud is still on site in Burnaby and it's business as usual. The City of Burnaby wants the camp, which is protesting the Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion, to respect city bylaws. But so far, the two parties have not reached an agreement. Now, Burnaby is looking to go to the province's top court for help. APTN's Amber Bernard reports.
Camp Cloud is still standing, but the question is for how long? Earlier in July, the City of Burnaby gave the camp a 3-day eviction notice, but they didn't enforce compliance. Instead, they're looking to the BC Supreme Court for help. They say they're not opposed to peaceful protest, but are concerned about several bylaw infractions the camp currently risks.
So in the absence of seeing any positive action towards compliance by Camp Cloud and the uncertainty as to when they will actually undertake work and to bring the site back to its previous condition, and the city decided to proceed with a court order application.
But members of Camp Cloud see the court order as an overstep on the City of Burnaby's part.
Lambert Chew trying to go in the back door of the BC Supreme Court to try and get a new agreement, overstepping their RCMP boundaries.
Burnaby is stressing the safety and health concerns the camp is posing to both water protectors and residents of the city, and would like those concerns to be resolved.
What the city wants to rectify is the safety, fire hazard, environmental and health issues that exist on the site.
Some of the concerns include a 2-level structure built by camp members, an on-site shower and a camp fire. There is currently a fire ban in Burnaby and across most of BC. The city expects the court order to be heard on August 10th. Amber Bernard, APTN National News, Burnaby.
And we'd like to hear what you think. Here's how to continue the conversation. Send your emails to news@aptn.ca. Find us online at aptnnews.ca and on youtube.com/aptn news. Also, you can follow APTN News on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for more Indigenous news. A First Nations man from British Columbia is one of more than 20 people arrested on a ship that was sailing for the Gaza Strip. Larry Commodore was on a boat with the group Freedom Flotilla sailing to the Gaza Strip when it was boarded by Israeli soldiers. Freedom Flotilla is an international grassroots solidarity movement working to end the blockade of Gaza. Our reporter Beverly Andrews has been following the story. Hi Bev, thanks for joining us. Can you start by telling us what happened with the flotilla this weekend?
Of course, Dennis. Yesterday, Sunday, July 29th, the boat was traveling in international waters near Israel towards Gaza as part of the grassroots movement to supply medical supplies to the Palestinian Civil Society of Gaza. It is reported that the ship was being intercepted and all contact was lost with the ship at around 2 p.m. local time. On board were 22 people from across the world, including Larry Commodore, who is from the Sioux-Wally Nation near Chilliwack, BC.
Bev, any news about the people who were on board?
Yes, as of this morning, 2 Israeli citizens who were on board were released on bail, facing charges of attempting to enter Gaza and conspiracy to commit a crime. Those witnesses report a very violent boarding where people were injured. And it's also reported that Larry Commodore was injured. His leg had some type of injury that is unknown, and he was taken to hospital, but has since been released to jail. The group is being held in the Givon prison near the port of Ashdod in Israel. A lawyer has been in to see them and speak with them about their legal rights, but other than that, there are no other reports of their well-being at this time.
So, Bev, any idea what's next for the group?
The group is asking citizens in their country, in their home countries, to implore that their governments, step in and try to help get these people released. They have things on their website where you can contact the local MPs for every person who was on board. And they will also be sending another boat called Freedom with more medical supplies and aid in the next couple of days while they're working to release the other participants in the meantime.
Bev, appreciate the update.
Thank you, Dennis.
A Pond Inlet Nunavut man is facing multiple charges after RCMP say he pointed a loaded rifle at them on Friday. Police in Pond Inlet, located on northeastern Baffin Island, say they were responding to a call about alleged domestic violence and found a woman in a ditch outside a residence. When they knocked on the door, they say 35-year-old Brian Umick opened the door with a loaded rifle pointed at the officers. Umick surrendered peacefully shortly after and now faces multiple charges. Time for a quick break, and then we'll be taking a deeper look at the impact of the child welfare system. Here's a look at Tuesday's weather forecast starting on the East Coast. 31 in Fredericton, 30 in Charlottetown, 25 for Happy Valley Goose Bay, 17 in Nain, 29 in Val-d'Or, 28 in Montreal, 27 for Quebec City. In Southern Ontario, 25 in Windsor, London and Toronto, 29 under the sun in Thunder Bay, cloud and 29 in Timmins. In northern Manitoba, 17 for Churchill, 19 under the sun for the Paw. 27 in Winnipeg, 24 in Gimli, 26 for Brandon. In Saskatchewan, 23 in North Battleford and Saskatoon. 21 in Uranium City and Stony Rapids. Welcome back. There are 30,000 children under the age of 14 in foster care, and half of those children are Indigenous. APTN is looking more deeply into the foster care this year. Today, the family of Helena Wood, and warning some viewers may find parts of this content disturbing.
Along the shores of Manitoba's Island Lake region rests St. Teresa Point First Nation. Helena Wood called this community home for most of her life. It was where she married and was raising her children. But it was not a happy life. The marriage was violent. Her oldest daughter, Cassandra, seemed to feel it deeply. Cassandra documented the violence in her journal. Her words are candid. "I think my dad is mad. I'm scared here. I don't know what to do," she wrote in one passage dated January 2009. Island Lake Family Services first intervened in 2008 when Cassandra told a local health worker she didn't want to go home because of the violence. Helena says the agencies intervened with tough love and little else, but there were serious signs Cassandra was suffering.
"You guys need to smarten up, or else you guys are going to lose Cassandra soon. She's already cutting herself. She's already hanging herself." That's all they ever said. And come to think of it now, I'm like, okay then, if you guys knew all the signs, how come you guys didn't take action?
But at the time, Helena didn't see it either. She used alcohol to cope. It numbed her.
And my daughter kept saying to me, my oldest one, the one I lost, "Mom, what are you doing? Just leave Dad. Can we move, please? Can we get out of here? I want to move out of here. Leave Dad. Why do you always take his side over your kids?" I had nothing to say. Well, the stupid answer would be, because I loved him.
Helena did not leave. All of the children remained in the home. Stephanie Wood, Helena's cousin, is a teacher at the school.
We do our best, right? CFS does their best. Policing does their best. All the social services do their best. But you know what? There's still a child involved here.
On February 26, 2010, Wood's 15-year-old daughter, Cassandra, died by suicide. Her body was found a day later.
It was supposed to be me, not her. That's what kept going through my mind. It's supposed to be me, not her.
The teen hung herself in a garage near the community's high school. Helena visits the spot where her body was found. Memories of that day hang heavy.
I lost her for a night, actually. Like, I didn't know where she was. And the last time people saw her was over here at the school.
The search lasted for 24 hours. It was Stephanie who told Helena. Helena was at work when she heard.
We had taken the long walk to the back of the store, you know, and I couldn't, I was watching her, I was like, how could she even walk? Like, you know, she didn't even know where her daughter was. And here I was about to tell her what they had found, that Cassandra had hung herself. And to this day, I still can't believe how blunt I was. But how do you sugarcoat that, right? How do you make that sound? How do you make that sound okay? So.
Helena believes it was the violent and unhappy home that led to the death. Her second eldest daughter, Jewel, began to harm herself a month after Cassandra's death. That woke Helena up. 6 months later, she fled to Winnipeg with her kids and a few belongings. She settled in nearby Steinbach. Away from the abuse, Helena thought she saw an end in sight, but a new fight was just beginning. She was still drinking to cope.
Even that I left here, there was a cycle followed me out there. Even though I went out there to find more resources, and I did, but they turned it on me. So there was another cycle there.
The kids began to act out. Helena looked for mental health resources for her kids to help them cope with the loss of their sister. And she looked for counseling for herself to help with her addictions. She was met with silence. CFS apprehended Jewel and Austin, her oldest son, because of the drinking. Helena wrote 3 letters to CFS asking for help. In one, she wrote, "I feel like I've been mistreated and victimized by the system again, and yet that was the whole point I came down here, to get the proper help I need for me and my children. Instead, I just got ignored and being misunderstood." She was finally told if she got clean, the kids would be returned.
That's when I said, okay, I'm going to quit drinking. Now finally I got what I wanted. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to show you. Yeah. I'm going to show you who you've been fighting with. You know, I'm going to turn around against him. You don't know who you're messing with. That kind of way. So she did that all the time. She would go back and forth. That was her safety zone. Mm-hmm.
Maxine Schindler is one of Helena's closest friends in Steinbach. She is also a foster parent. She witnessed Wood's search for help. She says that it is a common story for moms who have had kids in the system.
They would come for help. Instead of helping them, they would take their children away. Well, who's going to come for help then? Who's going to come for help if the first thing you do is take their children away?
Last October, the provincial government announced an overhaul of the child welfare system. The province said it would move away from a model where agencies see funding based on the number of kids in care, toward one that is based off block funding. It says this will help put more money into prevention and intervention.
The help was out there, but how to access it was not possible. If you didn't know how to fight, you didn't get the help.
Jewel and Austin have since aged out of the system. Brittany Hobson, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Thousands of parents are fighting every day to get their children out of foster care, and it's usually a secret process between the families and the agencies involved. But one mom is challenging that way of doing things, risking her freedom to tell a story about a system she says failed her. Kathleen Martins has more.
My name is, I'm originally from, but I grew up in all my life, and I moved 9 years ago.
This is Twitter Mom. That's the nickname we've given her because of these messages she's tweeting out. She's posting details of her life, pictures of her children, their names, and their ages. As you see here, she has posted pictures of her home and business.
I'd met with an elder once, and he had told me to share my story in the open. And from there I went forward and I started to share my story.
Here's one of those tweets. I want my story to be an example of what is happening, not just with me, but with hundreds of thousands of parents. Not every child in care is there because the system worked properly. And not only that, but the system itself does great harm to children. This should be acknowledged.
Well, I feel as if I'm able to be a voice on Twitter because on Twitter I have a huge audience who's really paying attention to the issue.
But not everyone is happy with her making this public. What she's doing, showing her face and the faces of her children, is illegal because her children are still in foster care. Twitter Mom can be fined and spend years in jail for violating the law.
You'll see rules that talk more about no one shall make public, as opposed to no one will publish in any newspaper, radio station, or TV broadcast.
Jonathan Croft is a media lawyer. He helps reporters figure out how to tell these stories without ending up behind bars.
Well, what do you think a judge is going to do with this? If it says press, does that include Facebook? And that's why reporting can be sometimes a little bit harrowing.
That's why we have to blur Twitter Mom's face and can't tell you her real name. But she's not letting that stop her. Here is her story in tweets. I am 34. I have been fighting to get my children returned back for 10 years. She says she was 16 when she had her oldest son and continued in school. Child welfare tried to get involved then, but her grandmother pushed them away. A second child followed. She writes, "But this is hard to admit. The dad was violent towards me, and it got worse as time went on. I was trying to hold everything together for my kids, and because it was my son's dad, I wanted it to work out. I became pregnant again, and I had my third son at the age of 24. She says there was abuse aimed at her. Then one day the school called to say her son was hurt. She took him to the hospital. She thought he had been hurt at school. Police got involved. They told her she was under arrest and accused her of hurting her son, which she denied over and over. She tweets, "After 11 hours they let me go. I called my mum from the first payphone I could find. She was crying. My mum told me police and CFS workers wearing medical gloves came and took the 2 boys. Her children were taken by social workers. She was only told after that her partner had hurt her son. She cut off contact with the man and says she has not seen or heard from him. She has had 3 home assessments since." She tweets, "My kids were apprehended in 2007. I saw one 3 times in 2008, then in 2010. I saw another one in 2009. I didn't see the other one until 2010. The eldest has since aged out of the system and moved back home. Officials tell us and families the law is there to protect the identities of children. But Twitter Mom says it has silenced her and helped cover up a system that should be held accountable for the decisions it makes."
And I feel that I'm a voice for a lot of women who can't speak.
Kathleen Martins, APTN News, Winnipeg.
It may just be a painting, but some see it as a representation of an ongoing issue. We'll explain after the break. Here's the rest of Tuesday's weather forecast, picking back up in northern Alberta. 25 in High Level, 23 for Grand Prairie. 29 under the sun in Medicine Hat, 1 degree cooler in Lethbridge. On the west coast, 25 in Vancouver, 26 in Victoria, 30 for Bella Coola, 26 in Dease Lake, 27 in Fort Nelson, 29 in Smithers. In the Yukon, 24 for Dawson and Old Crow. Over to NWT, 20 in Yellowknife, 27 for Fort Liard and Trout Lake. Just +4 for Sax Harbor on Tuesday, 14 in Paulatuck. In Nunavut, 16 in Chesterfield and Baker Lake, +6 in Repulse Bay. 8 in Iqaluit, 7 in Cape Dorset, 5 for Resolute. Welcome back. A new mural graces the side of a downtown youth center in Winnipeg. Some might see it as just a painting, but to others it represents an important ongoing issue. Ashley Branson brings us this.
For the last 4 days, United Kingdom-based artist Mr. Sens has been hard at work on his latest piece of art. It's displayed on the side of the Nadinaway Youth Centre building and is a collaboration with Winnipeg's graffiti art programming, also known as GAP.
Basically, it's showing a really kind of strong, inspirational young Indigenous woman. So, and it's trying to highlight some of the issues, especially the young Indigenous women who have gone missing and have been murdered.
Steve Wilson, the director of GAP, explains the meaning behind the mural.
This piece is about hope, but it's also about bringing awareness to the issue, because we need a lot of people to get involved in solving this issue.
Nadinaway Youth Centre talent manager Corey Gregorischuk says the mural can help the community.
I really can't even speak to the importance that this mural is going to bring forth, bringing the issue of Indigenous missing and murdered women on a global issue. It's really just doing our community a justice that is priceless.
But some community members are concerned because just across the courtyard on the Indigenous Family Centre building, another piece of art was vandalized, the Jackson Beardy mural. The painting was created by students in 1985 to honor the artist after his death. Wilson says this sort of thing happens from time to time.
Some people are quick to judge and quick to go, oh, you know, they're destroying artwork and that's so terrible. But, you know, these are just people who are trying to speak out.
And Wilson says the damage to the mural will be repaired.
As an homage to Jackson Beardy and those students who painted this in 1985, we're going to come and touch it up.
As for Mr. Sens and his new work, he says he's learned a lot about missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls.
Well, it's been quite emotional. I've not really heard much about it before. It's been a very educational trip, yeah, and a trip I won't forget.
Ashley Branson, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Great looking work. That's your APTN National News for this Monday. For news anytime, visit our website, aptnnews.ca. I'm Dennis Ward. Have a great night. We'll see you back here tomorrow.